Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This morning's learning is sponsored by Rochelle Diamond and family in memory of mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother Chaya Fega Bas Harav Chaim Halevi. It should be a schus for the neshama. Thank you very much to the Diamonds. Okay, we'll pick up with chapter 28, verse 1. We read this pasuk yesterday. We discussed the Ramban yesterday. I just want to read the pasuk again and see a kliyakar. In chapter 28, verse 1, it says, Moshe is told, V'ato hakrev elecha, you, Moshe, bring close to you Aaron, your brother, and his sons with him, mitoch b'nei Yisrael, from among b'nei Yisrael. Where else are they supposed to be? L'chan oli, to make him a priest for me, Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, V'samar b'nei Aaron. And we list the names again. The Ramban yesterday was very much focused on why we're listing the names again of the people who are being designated as Kohanim. Kliyakar takes somewhat of a different tack. If you look at the Kliyakar on pasuk Aleph, V'atok Reve Lecha Es Aaron Achicha Mitoch Bnei Yisrael, Hosef Kan Lashon V'atok. First of all, it's interesting. Hashem says to Moshe, you should bring close. This is not about Moshe. This is about Aaron and his sons. So why does it even say that Moshe should bring Aaron and his sons close to him? Lo Mar Lecha Shemitzad Maso Egel Nisrachik Aaron. Truth be told, thinking about the sin of the golden calf, and again, there's this famous issue, what's the timeline here? So the Kliyakar is clearly going with the approach that the sin of the golden calf already occurred. So, the firstborns of Israel would have been the subset that would represent the Jewish people in the Beis Hamikdash and the Mishkan, but it didn't turn out that way because families of Klal Yisrael across the board were involved in the golden calf. And therefore, the reason why the tribe of Levi became the special subset was because they weren't involved in the golden calf. Well, Aaron was involved in the golden calf too. So based on that model, one could make the argument that Aaron shouldn't be the high priest. Moshe karvo b'tfilaso. But Moshe sort of got Aaron elevated or brought closer to God through Moshe's prayers. It says in the pasuk, since Sefer Tvarim, that Moshe reports that God was very angry at Aaron and God wanted to destroy Aaron. And I davened for Aaron. The Indian tfilazu. So what was the core of Moshe's prayer on Aaron's behalf? Shetala Moshe ba'atzmo lemor, halo achi v'sari hu. So the Kliyakar says we can only surmise what the core of Moshe's tefillah for Aaron was. We can surmise that it was similar to how Moshe davened for Miriam. If you remember the story in the Chumash, later in Chumash, where Miriam gets, earlier in Chumash, where Miriam gets saras, Miriam gets leprosy, right? So Moshe davens that this is my flesh, and essentially, if you do something to her, you're doing something to me. So presumably Moshe had said a similar prayer for Aaron. Nimtza shabavur shekarvo Moshe love. Okay, nivchar b'schus Moshe. So if we understand that Aaron became the Kohen Gadol despite his role in the golden calf because of the prayers of Moshe. The prayers of Moshe, says the Kliyakar, surmises the Kliyakar, had everything to do with Moshe stating his closeness to Aaron. So the bottom line is, Hashem is saying to him, the reason Aaron is becoming the Kohen Gadol is because of your relationship with him and your prayers for him. So you, in the designation of Aaron as Kohen Gadol, the formal designation, you bring him close because it was all about your prayers. An interesting pshat. Skipping a few lines, Davar Acher, another pshat, Lekach Ne'amar Mitoch B'nei Yisrael. This is what it means from among B'nei Yisrael. So I just want to clarify. According to the first pshat of the Kliyakar, the reason it says from among B'nei Yisrael is Aaron should have had a similar punishment to the rest of the Jews who were involved in the Egel Hazav, the golden calf. That he shouldn't have been able to have this special role in the Mishkan because of his involvement in the golden calf among Bnei Yisrael, but because of Moshe's prayers for him, things were changed. Another pshat in among Bnei Yisrael, when there's prophecy for the prophets of Israel, it's, of course, you have to have people of unique merit, but the real merit for a person to get prophecy is if the Jewish people merit having prophecy. Kosher Pirush Rashi Parshas Dvarim Uba Lomar Sha'afu Pi Shoya Aaron Royal Archiko Mikol Makom Karvo Hashem Bavur Shnei Dvarim. Even though it would have been reasonable for Hashem to take away Aaron's ability to be the Kohen Gadol, God brought him close for two reasons. Number one, Echad Bavur Moshe. So one is because of his relationship with Moshe. Vashni, and the second, Hu b'schus b'nei Israel. It's in the merit of the Jewish people. Shayutzrichin lekohen kazeh osa shalom. Bnei Israel needed someone like Aaron. This was something not just for anybody to do. Aaron, a person who not only was a person of personal piety, but he was a person who brought peace to Klal Israel. So the pshat is, you, Moshe, bring close to you, because he's getting this role in your merits from among Bnei Israel. So one way is, despite the punishment on the rest of Bnei Israel, Aaron is an exception. But the other way of looking at it is, we're going to make Aaron the Kohen Gadol because Bnei Israel deserves someone like Aaron. They need someone like Aaron. That's why he's going to get this role. Interesting, Kliak. Okay, moving on to verse 5. So we've been talking about, in these psukim, we've been talking about the different things that will need to be done. Just to give you an idea, if you jump back to verse 3 for a moment, speak to all the people wise of the heart, that I filled them with the spirit of wisdom. They should make the garments for Aaron. And these are the garments they should make. And now verse 5. They should take the gold, different types of wool. They should take all the materials. We haven't really spoken much about who's supposed to take these materials. So this pasuk says the artisans are supposed to take the materials that are donated. Very interesting Ramban on this pasuk. Ramban on pasuk Hey, v'hei michus hazahav, hine kol atzavos ad kan hayu b'Moshe atzmo. All of the instructions until this point were all geared towards Moshe. The Yasisa, you should make this. Tasa, you should make that. And of course, it's not understood to mean that Moshe himself built the Mishkan, but it means that he should commission people to do this, commission people to do that. The Ata Tziva, Sheyidaber Kol Chachmei Leiv, Sheyasu Abgadim. But now for the first time, not just in verse 5, but in verse 3 as well, it's not Moshe make these garments. It's Moshe, speak to Chachmei Leiv. Speak to people of unique intelligence. They should make the garments. V'lochein amar v'hem yichus atchelos v'sazov. So now, says the Ramban, being that we've said for the first time, Moshe designate a specific group of people that are supposed to do X, then we immediately follow that with saying that they should take the materials. Shikablu hanadava min hatzibur v'yasu bas habagadim. That these craftsmen should take the materials from the communal donations and make the garments. Vatam lemor shelo yishko lahem hanadava v'lo yimana kine monim he ki inyan shenemar v'lo yachshvus hanashim asher yitnuas hakesef al yadam laseis lo seam lacha ki be'emunah heim osim. So the Ramban is making a very interesting point. The Ramban says the point being conveyed by verse 5 is, we are not holding the craftspeople to an accounting. It's an interesting thing. In other words, we trust them. We're going to trust them. So Moshe should raise as much as he can, and then the people will just take it. And they don't have to report to anybody. I don't think the point of this pasuk is anti-transparency. I don't think that's the point of the pasuk. How about that today? Running an organization that someone wants to see the books and say, I was taught in the Torah not to do it. I don't think that's the takeaway of the pasuk. But I do think the point here is that these people doing this very special mitzvah, this very unique, extraordinary mitzvah, whether it be they shouldn't be bogged down by the accounting, whether it be their emotions shouldn't be weighed down by the feeling that they're suspected of this and suspected of that. Either way, be it as it may, the bottom line is the Ramban says the pshat in the pasuk is no one's looking over their shoulder. It's an interesting thing. We certainly see later on in Navi that that's not necessarily that in future generations that wasn't necessarily the way to go. We understand that later, but at least for now, this was the dynamic. Okay, moving forward to verse 17. Sorry, let's start with verse 15. V'yosisa choshen mishpat masei choshev k'masei efod ta'asenu sahav tchelas v'argaman v'salash shoni v'sheish mazar taseu so. So the choshen mishpat, which was the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol, very special thing. Verse 16, Ravu yeh kaful zeres or kova zeres rachbo. It was a square. Verse 17, Umileisavo miluas even arba'a turim oven. Fill it with 4 rows of stones. Tur odem pitov orekas atur echad. So there are going to be 12 different stones on this breastplate. Okay, and this is going to be worn by the Kohen Gadol. Let's see the kliyakar. Kliyakar on pasuk Yud Zayin. Mileisavo miluas even arba'a turim. Ubechol echad shlosha avonim tovos. In each of these 4 rows will be 3 precious stones. Ki ein bezdin pachos mishlosha. So it says, first of all, the symbolism of each row having 3 is that a bezdin, a rabbinic court, is supposed to be at least 3 people. V'yumas hirim kizoar ha'avonim ki avnei nezer hema shanirim tocham kibarim. The hope is the people who serve in this role as a rabbinic court, bringing God's sense of justice to the world, should shine like the stones. What do we mean by that? That the hope is they should be people whose inner light come out. We want people who are tocham kibaram. This is obviously a challenge through the ages, but what we're looking for with people who are representing Klal Yisrael in a judicial capacity, in a rabbinic leadership capacity, are people who look the part, not in terms of their physical appearance, but in terms of how they act. But not only do they look the part, they fit the part. That, of course, there are many times where people seem to conduct themselves in a certain way, but in the privacy of their own homes or in the privacy of their own hearts and minds, they're very different than how they appear. So the goal is that these stones, the glow, the shine of the stones is by the very nature of the stone. We're not putting a shining agent on the stone. That's not happening. The goal is that the people who serve in this role as the Beit Din should be people whose shine emanates, but it's their true internal shine. The Akedah says, not so fast. Not all of these stones were so expensive. Some of them were expensive. Some of them were not. Lirmos, Shieladayan, Shava Mishpat Shel Pruta, Kimea Mana. This, obviously, we're talking a lot about things in terms of the Choshen Mishpat is supposed to represent judgment. So the judge needs to treat small money cases like big money cases. So that's alluded to the fact that stones of varying values are on the breastplate. The names of the tribes were etched onto the stones in age order. Lirmos shelo yisa pnei ish kakaton kagadol yishmaun. Kilu ein kan yisrael legadol shebishvatim al katan shebahem. Rak atolada tluya b'shanim. V'zula zeh kol shavin. So besides the idea that the stones represent all the tribes, he says on a judicial level, there's a great significance in the names of each tribe, because the point is we treat all of them the same. Yehuda was the tribe of kings. We're going to treat Naphtali the same as we treat Yehuda. And by the way, the sequence of the stones is just age order. We're just going in age order. So we might continue with this kliyaka tomorrow. I'll see. But just to wrap up what we discussed today, we discussed the kliyaka regarding what it means that Aaron and the sons are chosen from among the Bnei Israel. We discussed the Ramban with his idea that there wasn't required transparency for the craftsmen of the Mishkan, and we began discussing this kliyaka, part of the symbolism of the Kohen Gadol's breastplate.